Now, the thing maybe that's certain, the only real thing I think that's kind of lingering right now, aside from I would say there's kind of two things that are lingering. One is the drops by the receivers and the tight ends in a lot of situations, um, but the other is that there are a few injuries starting to show up. Carson Willich hasn't been back yet. I don't know if he played against South Dakota or not, but the Kansas State game he played really really well, and he's been kind of hurt ever since. Gabe Burkle is out. It sounds like he's going to be back. It sounds like he'll be fine. I think Caleb Brzina played on Saturday. As far as I know, he's fine. Kind of the two big ones right now, I think, are Kyle Conrarty, who came out and he when he missed that field goal, he looked visibly uncomfortable. Like he looked like he was hurt. He kicked that injured, and he went to the tent and medical tent, came back out and didn't come back out for the rest of the game, or didn't kick for the rest of the game. And I don't know what the injury is. Um, Hopefully he's fine, because he is absolutely a weapon for Iowa State on special teams. He's a guy where if you end the drive at the 40-yard line, you're fine with him plopping back there and taking a 55 yarder. You're okay with that because he can make them, and he's pretty consistent at making them, actually. So it's such a weapon for Iowa State to have a kicker like that. Uh, you know, I don't know when he's going to be back. Hopefully it's soon. I don't want to throw out any like rumors, because it's absolutely not confirmed. The one that I've heard floating around is not great. And I don't mean to cause panic. I don't know, and I can't confirm it myself or anything like that. And we'll know more. I don't know if we'll know the full truth next week, but we'll know more next week on the injury report. We'll find out what the deal is with Kyle. I'm sure it'll just say lower body injury out or something like that, out or doubtful or something. But at least we'll have some. If he's if he's out for Arizona, I'm gonna have a small alarm bell going off in my head. Just like, okay, if he's out, then he might not be back for a little bit. If he's doubtful, maybe that means he's a couple weeks away. Who knows? We don't know exactly how much to trust these injury reports yet, but it's a point of concern because Jace Gilbert was hurt in the first game, and they had another walk on out there. I couldn't even tell you his name. I mean, if it comes down to Iowa State needing to hit a 40-yard field goal, I mean, if Jace Gilbert's not out there, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you do. If Iowa State has 4th and 6 on the 35-yard line, they're probably going for it. The question is how close do they need to be to kick a field goal? And when you keep playing these close games, it's absolutely meaningful. So we'll see. The other one, which is injured as giant hog. The other one, I have no idea how concerned to be about this, but Jontez Williams did not play most of the second half, or maybe the entire second half against Arkansas State. I have not heard anything about what his deal is. Not even just like a little like rumor mill thing. I haven't heard anything about what Jontez Williams thing is. For what it's worth, Jeremiah Cooper has been very, very good at corner so far. Trey Bell played really well on Saturday. They've played some other guys over at corner as well that have been, generally speaking, pretty good. If Jontez, Jontez is one of the best corners in college football. You don't want to not have him on the field. But it seems to me that with Trey Bell is now up to speed, where if Jontez has to miss a game and you're playing just Jeremiah Cooper and Trey Bell, I think you can survive a game or two like that. I don't think it's that necessarily that big a deal, especially against some of these earlier opponents. If it was like Arizona State or TCU coming up, I would be very concerned, just because of how good their passing games are. But we'll see with Arizona. Arizona is a better team for sure than they were last year. No question about it. But do they have the threats outside to warrant worrying having Trey Bell versus Jontez Williams. I don't know. But that's one to keep an eye on. I think they've got guys in the room where if Jontez couldn't go full speed or had to miss a week, I think you can be okay. The secondary is very good. Otherwise, the safeties have been awesome. But obviously want to keep an eye on. To me right now, the big one is Kyle Conradi, because that just changes your kicking game entirely. Carson Willich, we'll see what his deal is. That guy can't. It sucks because he's been a really good player when he's been in. The guy just cannot catch a break and on staying healthy. So we'll see, what they can do coming out of that. As far as I know, I would expect Gabe Burkle to be full go for Arizona, or as full go as you can be. So yeah, it's just tough. I mean, you're into the season. You're going to have injuries. This shit's going to happen. It's football. Guys get hurt. Is what it is. But you're not missing you're not missing an offensive lineman. Trevor Burr came back. I think he played all right on Saturday. You know, you're not missing any major skill players to my knowledge. The defensive line is doing fine. Montre Malone had a pretty good game last week. Thought he did a good job. At Kenny Yogu had another good game as well. So some promise there. But overall, the injury concerns are they pale in comparison to what they had to deal with last year. But a couple guys, the couple guys that we do know of that are hurt are concerning, especially the kicker. I guess I haven't heard anything like it. As far as I know, I think Ben Bramer's fine. But again, we'll know more. We'll have more clarity next week with the injury report for the Arizona game. So, we'll see. But heading into this bye week, it's obviously the first one is get recharged, get healthy. You can clean up special team stuff. The receivers can clean up catches. They can. They have good enough hands to not be dropping balls like this. Things like this can be cleaned up. It just takes time on the jugs machine. That it's got to be times. It's got to be reps out there on the practice field with Rocco and the other quarterbacks and things like that. This bye week needed to happen at the end of the first quarter against Arkansas State is when it needed to happen. But they're in about as good a spot as you could realistically have asked them to be in. They've shown that they can win tough games. They can win games multiple ways. They've found, it seems to me like they've found good starters and good depth at pretty much every position. Wide receiver, now we need to see 2 games in a row from Xavier Townsend. He had his game against Arkansas State, but is he going to put it together against Arizona? Is Ben Bramer going to be, is he going to drop another pass? I'm not suddenly concerned about Ben Bramer's hands, but just is he going to bounce back and be the Ben Bramer we know he can be? The receivers are probably the only ones right now where you're looking at is like they need to find a dude that can be a dude every week versus like, oh, this week it's Carson Brown. This week it's Dom Overby. This week it's Brett Eskelson. This week it's Xavier Townsend. Maybe next week it's Chase Soul. Somebody needs to step up and be the dude. I think any one of Overby, Eskelson, Townsend, Soul, I think any of those 4 have the skill, athleticism, and size, and or size to do that, to be the guy, to be a guy that can get 8-10 targets a game, something like that. I don't think you need 10, but like 6 to 8 targets a game type of thing where they can just kind of feed him the ball a little bit. Maybe it's Xavier Townsend, get him on screens and jet sweeps and things like that. Or maybe they found him on, maybe the hitting him, deep down the field in this game was like, okay, we can use this now. We can get Xavier Townsend in the seam. They need to figure out this receiver situation, find a couple guys that they can rely on. It's still good to rotate and keep guys moving in and out and getting guys more experience, getting guys more touches, find, different combinations for the defense to account for all of that. But when it's third down, it's 3rd and 6. You need to find a receiver that you can throw to. They've got tight ends. I'm not discounting the tight ends. Gabe Burkle and Ben Bramer, especially Gabe Burkle, has been amazing this season. I think I would have to imagine if there was like a Mackey Awards semifinalist or finalist list coming right now, Gabe Burkle would have to be on it. But just having tight ends on third down is not going to be good enough. They need to find a receiver that they can reliably go to. I mean, if it were like my choice, you'd have one of the bigger body guys, Chase Soul, maybe Dom Overby. One of those guys becomes your third down guy. I think Chase Soul seems like a great target. It seems like a great candidate for that role, just being your third down guy. But they need to grow. They need to be more consistent. They need to do a lot of things. There's clearly talent there. There's clearly athleticism there. They just need to all put it together, and they need to do it multiple games in a row. Um, Receivers and D backs need to grow by late. I think the D backs in general. I mean, the safeties. I think the secondary in general has been pretty good. Um, yeah, there's still the safeties are on the young side, but I think for where they're at in their careers, I think they've been very good. And most of the mistakes that they've been making have been very much like freshman type mistakes. This is a great opportunity for them to be able to sit down, really go through some film, get some stuff figured out, review tendencies, review things they got beat on, like, looking at the Kansas State film and saying, hey, we got beat on this double move. We can watch this for later. Things like that. Film room can clean up a lot of the young parts of the safeties, basically. The corners have been otherwise pretty good. I think the main position group that needs to get something figured out this week is the wide receiver room. I think the defensive line is slowly kind of coming into their own. I think they're starting to figure some stuff out. Dom Orange has been awesome. Um, Vontae Malone has had a couple. He was pretty good. Tomatolo McDonough has been good. I don't think he played much on Saturday, so hopefully he's okay. But then Akene Eziogu has had some good moments. Had a good game against Kansas State. They've been finding some guys. They just need to keep building on that. Wide receiver needs to find some guys. Not that there's not for lack of talent or athleticism, but because they just need to find guys that can be there every single game and be the guys that they can rely on. So that's really the agenda for the bye week, other than just recharging, getting healthy, all of that.